If you're having suicidal thoughts or feelings or feel like you have no hope, please call 988. There, you can talk to someone who not only cares about your story, but cares about you. Please reach out today. Thomas P. Murphy once said, "Minutes are worth more than money. Spend them wisely." At Minutes Wisely, we take that to heart. Our mission is to decrease veteran suicide by providing life-changing experiences for veterans, first responders, and Gold Star families. We believe that we can make a lasting impact by rekindling a sense of purpose and fostering community through sponsored tickets to sporting events. These experiences are not just about the game, they're about the moments that can change lives. A simple sporting event can boost joy and instill a sense of renewed hope and purpose for those who have served. Join us in making a difference, become a moment maker, and empower a veteran with rediscovered hope. Visit minuteswisely.com for more information and to get involved. Together, we can make every moment count.
Talk.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, hey, welcome back to the second episode of Tomorrow Needs You and Minutes Wisely podcast. So, fun fact, when I was trying to get you on the podcast a couple months ago, it was actually called the Scuttlebutt podcast. And I had a co-host. Yeah, I had a co-host. Well, my co-host and I kind of went our own separate ways. So I didn't want to keep the same name because it's something that we had built. So I started a new one. It's called Tomorrow Needs You. And concept is just a couple of veterans just sitting around chewing the fat and getting your life story.
It'll be about the third time today I get to do that.
Yeah, right. So
yeah, I got a lot of things to be grateful for.
So we also Minutes Wisely is the mothership. And then so it's a nonprofit that I started. I've been podcasting for almost 5 years. And so the original podcast, getting life stories of these veterans. And it was very emotional, very therapeutic. And something just pulled me like, this is great. And I love the way this is going. But I feel like I need to do more because a lot of the conversations shifted towards like veteran mental health and suicide. And, 22 veterans every single day commit suicide. So I'm thinking, man, this is great.
If only were that many.
Yeah, exactly.
If only.
Yeah, that's the number that the government wants.
Those of us who discuss that stuff regularly know that number is really way higher than that.
Yeah. And so I saw the trajectory that we were going, and I wanted to do more. So it spun off a nonprofit. The nonprofit's called Minutes Wisely. And what we do to try to combat veteran suicide is we get the veteran out of their house and we send them to awesome events and we pay for it completely.
Spectacular.
Yeah, I have season tickets to 2 different NFL teams, and we're building off that. And we don't just send them to NFL teams. It could be any sporting event. It could be a play, opera, the zoo, like anything that they're interested in, we will send them and let them.
So I'm going to guess that your season tickets include the Tennessee Titans.
Yes.
So I get to make jokes about that because didn't you guys just get rid of Adam Thielen?
They got rid of a lot of people, and now it's very hard to get rid of. It's hard to give tickets away for free. I'll say that they're not doing well at all.
I could be wrong because I don't follow football religiously, but it seems to me that Adam Thielen, first of all, he was a walk-on player. That much I know. He was a walk-on player, walked on for the tryouts for the Minnesota Vikings 10 years ago, 12 years ago, something like that. And he was actually selected for the team. And as a rookie, I think he made $200,000. And as a sophomore, he made $8 million. Anyway, yeah. I believe that he was traded to the Tennessee Titans for about 2 years. And then he went back to Minnesota this year. And when whatever the deadline is for the mid-season trades, and again, I don't know when it is, like the end of November, third week in November, something like that. Anyway, we got rid of him too. So now he's trying to catch passes from Pittsburgh. Who's over Pittsburgh? Aaron Rodgers. So he's trying to catch passes from Aaron Rodgers. So I don't know how that's working out for him. Like I said, I don't follow it religiously, but if I can think of a joke, I'll make one.
Yeah. They're easy to make fun of.
Yeah.
So I don't really follow. I live here outside of Nashville. I'm from Detroit, so my other set of tickets are the Detroit Lions. That's the team that I follow. I mean, as you can see behind
Well,
me.
that's another one of those teams. I thought well, first of all, I thought they were going to win the Super Bowl last year.
Yeah.
And then they get knocked out of the playoffs right away. And then this year, they're just a mediocre team, just like almost every other team in the NFL. There's no standout.
Correct.
Well, Seattle is looking pretty good. Indianapolis was looking good till they started that 44-year-old quarterback.
Yeah. Interesting.
So, we can have a little bit of fun doing the sports wrap, but that's not really why we're here.
No. So, but do me a favor, introduce yourself to our listeners.
All right. Your listeners don't have any idea who I am. Well, listeners, my name is Anthony Token Squid Price. I'm the author of this book, Yours Very Sincerely and Respectfully, which is a story of my personal journey around the country on a motorcycle to take care of Gold Star families. And just in case you missed the memo and you're not sure what a Gold Star family is, a Gold Star family is the immediate family members of somebody who's killed in the military. So that's who I am. Token Squid, that's my road name. Is that it right there? No, it's that one. And I got the road name because I'm a Navy guy. See, there's my Navy rank right there. I'm a Navy guy who goes to the Marine birthday party. And there's one other Navy guy that goes to that Marine birthday party too, but he's a medic. And the Marines consider medics to be Marines, even though they're Navy medics. But the Marines have a great spot in their heart, right, for but I wasn't a medic. I was an aerographer. Stick around for a little while. I'll tell you what an aerographer actually is. I was an aerographer. And when I tell the guys there at the Marine birthday party, they say, wow, you can hang out here anyway. And, they let me promote the Gold Star Ride Foundation. You're in Nashville or just outside of Nashville. I'm in the Twin Cities, Minneapolis, St. Paul. And November 10th, which is the Marines birthday party in Minnesota, is usually about 15, 16 degrees.
Yeah.
And I ride a motorcycle to that party. So I ride the motorcycle to the casual Marine birthday party. And I think I've done it 14 years in a row. Anyway, the guy who hosts it is a retired lieutenant colonel, United States Marine Corps. And he managed to get on a local radio station here in the Twin Cities many years ago now. This is where the name comes from. So he was on a local radio station and I knew the disc jockey because I'd been on doing interviews with him talking about my Gold Star Ride Foundation and the charity work that I do for Gold Star families. Anyway, the retired lieutenant colonel says to Tom, the DJ, says, well, Tom, Tony, he's going to be there. He's our Token Squid. It just kind of rolled off. It just kind of fell out of his mouth.
Yeah.
But I happened to be listening to it, so I get my telephone real quick, and I sent a text message to the DJ. And I said, oh, great, I've been reduced to Token Squid. And he read it on the air to the Marine. So it was kind of a neat little moment when we all got to get together. Anyway, but that's where my road name Token Squid comes from. But my job is to ride motorcycle around the country and take care of Gold Star families. And in 7 years, I have logged over 155,000 miles on a motorcycle. I have been to all 48 of the lower states at least 4 times. Jeez. And I have personally met with 553 Gold Star families across the country.
Well, we're going to have to talk because Gold Star family members are part of my organization also. So we don't just see veterans, we support veterans, first responders, and Gold Star family members.
I think that's awesome. Appreciate you doing that. Our little organization we're trying to do something bigger than we are.
Yeah.
We got 3 board members and me. I'm the executive director. That means I have to do all the work.
Yep.
And when I say all the work, I mean everything from designing and building the website to answering all the emails to talking to all the corporations that are going to be our sponsors to riding the motorcycle and being a therapist for the families.
Right. Yeah.
Everything.
It's a big job.
And, when I started it, I thought I didn't realize it was going to be that big a deal. I didn't realize how much time it was going to take to get it done. Yeah, I figured people were just going to be jumping on the bandwagon saying, yeah, what you're doing is great. I'm going to come and help you. Shoot. I struggle to find board members.
Yeah, it's that. Yeah, everybody loves what I'm doing. Kind of the same way. Everyone loves what I'm doing until it's time to get to work, and they're like, "Oh yeah, okay, I'm busy."
Yeah. I hear that a lot. Super
Yeah,
busy. Oh
yeah,
yeah,
I'm
you're
super
the
busy
one.
too. Yeah, I'm
You're the
super
one.
busy
I've
also.
never heard of that before.
Yeah, so before we get into all that, I want to pick your brain about your military service. Like, did you grow up in the Twin Cities,
No, again, I grew up in Minnesota.
Minnesota? Yeah,
A couple of things about my military background. First of all, I went into the Navy. I was on the delayed entry program.
same.
I
Yeah,
had my 25th birthday in boot camp.
so you were an old man.
Yes, it's the first and only time in my life I've been called grandpa.
Yeah,
Yeah, so no grandkids. Yeah, we got a step grandchild that's kind of new to us in the last 6 months, but no official grandkids. So anyway, nobody ever calls me grandpa. So I was 25 years old in boot camp, and yeah, my naval career, um, it took me through like the first half of Operation Desert Storm, and then when it came time for me to get out, I watched the news one day and I called the recruiter and I said, "Look, my sea bag's already packed. I don't even need a haircut. Where you want me?" And they said, "What'd you do?" And I told them what I did, and I said, "I was an aerographer." We're coming again later to define what that is. Anyway,
yeah,
he says, "You know what? We're good." The recruiter said, "We're good. We got enough aerographers. We're good. You can sit back and watch the rest of the war at home on TV." That's kind of that's what they told me. So my military experience, while it shaped everything in my life, my military experience was, you know what? I just didn't get to be a hero.
yeah,
I did my job. I did it pretty well. I advanced in rank pretty fast. I got 4.0 evals, but I wasn't in harm's way. I wasn't loading guns. I wasn't.
yeah.
I.
Everybody has a job.
But like I said, it did have an impact on every other decision I made since I got out of the service. Incidentally, when I got out of the service, and maybe you don't even have any listeners who remember this, but there used to be a time when it was embarrassing to be a veteran,
Yeah,
particularly after Vietnam. When the guys came home from Vietnam, they didn't want anybody to know that they were sent over there, and that was still a reality for me. I was 12 years old when Vietnam ended, 12, 13 years old when Vietnam ended. So I had friends that came over or came back from over there, and they didn't want anybody to know. And when I came home from the Navy in 91, I didn't want anybody to know I was ever in the Navy either. Nobody knew. I had an ex-wife and the mother of my son. She knew I was in the Navy. My immediate family members knew I was in the Navy. But if I met somebody on the street, that never came up. That never came up from 1991 until 2011. And I kind of remember that I never told anybody that I was in the Navy. I never let anybody know that that was part of my thing until with my current wife, I've been with her since 2010. And in 2011, she was going to do a fundraiser at a golf course. And she said, "Hey, they're raising money to send over to the guys that are fighting in the Middle East." And she said, "You're a disabled vet. Why don't you come too?" And it was only after that weekend that I thought it was okay to tell people that I'm a veteran.
yeah, yeah. People are weird.
Right? Yeah, I was 50, almost 50 years old. And I think I was 48 years old when I decided it was okay to tell people that I was a veteran.
Did you go to boot camp at Great Lakes?
Yes, great mistakes.
Great mistakes.
Great mistakes. And I did it in the winter,
What month did you?
January and February,
January of what year?
7.
So I
Yeah,
was
do you
in.
remember what the weather was that year? It was
I
bloody
know.
cold is what it was.
I know exactly what the weather was in January of '85 because I was in Great Lakes. January 28th, 1985 was my first day.
Is that right? My
Yes,
first
sir.
day was January 1st. So I went till what did they have us go till like mid-March, I think? Mid January to mid-March, something like that.
Yeah, it was cold as balls. When I was in boot camp, it got so cold for one stretch that we couldn't even leave the barracks to go to chow. They brought McDonald's in for us. Just a bunch of hamburgers. And, we didn't get no fries or Cokes.
We had warmer we had warmer what'd they call the hats? The knit caps?
Yeah, it was like it looked like a watch cap.
Watch cap, that's what it was.
Watch
Yeah.
cap. Yeah.
So our watch caps must have been warmer because we marched to chow every day, no matter how cold it was. The weird one was that we marched to chow one day where the skies were blue and an inch of snow fell. That was kind of a weird day.
Yeah.
You've heard of that, right? That's lake effect.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
So that's a
About it.
weird phenomenon.
Yep. I know all about it. So, were they still wearing dungarees when you went
Oh,
in?
yeah. Yep. Dungaree shirts and dungaree pants.
Yeah.
I don't have any of those anymore. I saved a couple pieces of my uniform. I still get the pea coat. I still wear the pea coat. Pea coat still
Oh, that was
fits.
nice. Yeah.
And up here in Minnesota, it comes in handy. Every now and then I'll wear it about twice a year. I saved one working blues, one working whites, one dress blue, one dress whites, and one Dixie cup. I saved one Dixie cup. I should have that up there on display.
Yeah.
No place back there.
Did you have a neckerchief?
What's that? I lost my neckerchief. I don't know what happened to that, but I had one for a long time. I wanted to save it,
Yeah, I
but
wanted to see my top idea.
I have no idea where that went. And my boondockers are long since gone.
Oh, those things, man, I'd burn the hell out of those if I still had mine. I have nightmares about them things.
Yeah, I could never get them to fit right.
Oh, they're horrible.
They were horrible pieces of shoes. I was telling him I got a 9-year-old nephew, and I was telling him the other day, said, every piece of the uniform that you wear in the Navy, every piece of the uniform can be taken off and used as a flotation device. Do you remember that part of your training?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so I think about that often. Might even have nightmares about it. But yeah, you could take them boondockers off and fill them with air and put them upside down, and they would float on top of the water. That's some
Yeah.
crazy stuff.
Where'd
That
you
little
go
white cap would float. Yeah.
where'd you go to A school at?
They sent me way, way far away to Chanute Air Force Base in Rantoul, Illinois. It's like a 90-minute drive from Great Mistake straight down to central Illinois. About 15 miles from Champaign, Illinois.
And it's a Air Force base?
And it was an Air Force base. I think it's since been closed, but that's where they sent me to the Air Force Base to learn aerography.
Aerography. Huh. Interesting.
Yeah. Yep. And you and your listeners are going, had to be something with a camera. Aerography. No,
I
didn't have
figured
anything.
it had something to do with the weather.
I was a weather. Yeah, I was a weather forecaster. I was a weather observer for the first 3 years and aviation weather briefer and weather forecaster for the last bit.
Were you on a ship or were you on shore duty?
Naval Air Station, Dallas, Texas. Naval Air Station, Dallas, Texas. So I didn't, like I said at the beginning, I've got these 3 ribbons up here there because the Desert Storm happened at the same time that I was in. 2 of them were for Desert Storm. And the other one's a good conduct, which, I used to not think very highly of it until I realized how rare it actually is. A lot of people don't get those.
Right.
Yeah.
You have to stay on the up and up for what, 4 years?
Yeah, you got to keep your nose clean for 4 years.
Yeah.
That's basically it. And at the time, keep your nose clean for 4 years. Well, keep my nose clean. That's easy enough. But it turns out I was serving with a lot of people who didn't.
Yeah.
There was a lot of people who got caught doing stupid things like drinking underage was a big one, which quite frankly, I think is a little bit ridiculous. I think if you can go die for your country, you can have a drink.
Right.
Yeah, but that's just my opinion.
Yeah.
That's just
We
my
were allowed to
opinion.
drink, but obviously you didn't want to drink and drive. That was a huge no-no.
Well, you had to be 21 to drink.
Not
But
when
we
I
had
went. Yeah, all you had to be was they served everybody. As long as you were on base, that is. On base you could if you're wearing a uniform or you had a military ID, you could drink.
Which base
Served
was that?
everybody. Pardon?
Which base was that?
Alameda, California.
Is that right?
Yep. They even had, beer machines in the laundromat. There's beer machines all over the base, but, I remember vividly there's a beer machine at the laundromat, so every time we go down and do laundry, drinking beer while we're doing our laundry.
Well, I remember everybody used to come to me saying, "Can you buy me the beer?" Because I was over 21. In Texas, it was you had to be 21 to drink. And, most of the guys coming in the Navy were 18, 19,
Yep.
certainly not 21. And that's how they would get in trouble.
Even in our E club, if you were under 21, you could drink beer, but you couldn't drink, hard liquor, but you could drink beer. You had to
Well,
be 21 and over to drink hard liquor.
yeah, that was I don't have any idea what the rules are anymore.
Yeah, yeah. I've been
But
out for decades.
apparently they were different from state to state.
Yeah, sounds weird.
Well, I think it sounds weird. I think it sounds weird. But one of the things that I brought home from the Navy was the camaraderie and the requirement to be a stand-up guy for the guy standing next to you.
Yeah.
I'm making up these words. I'm not quoting them out of a book or anything. So hopefully I'm getting the right message across. But one of the things that we learned in the Navy, or one of the things that we learned in the military was, if you got two guys that are elbow to elbow going into harm's way, they're saying to each other, if something happens to me, tell my mother this, tell my wife this, tell my kids this, do this for me, get this deliver this letter. Even it might have been just something as simple as that. Make sure that this letter goes out if something happens to me. And that's kind of what I've decided I'm just going to take over doing. That's what, I've been doing it for 7 years now. And so far, knock on wood, so far I have not been to visit any family of a serviceman or woman that I knew so far. But I don't think that I have to know them. I don't think that I have to know the servicemen and women who give up their life in order to be a support tool for their family.
Right.
Yeah.
Let's see here. What year did you get out of the Navy?
91.
And you're at, NAS Dallas?
NAS Dallas, yeah. NAS Dallas doesn't exist anymore either.
Yeah, I was gonna ask if that was still there.
Well, Clinton closed it.
Yeah,
So
I was gonna ask you, Clinton closed NAS Alameda also. He closed a bunch of them.
Well, I remember Alameda because, my job was to talk to the pilots. All the pilots flying coast to coast, didn't even make any difference which direction they were going.
Yeah.
They would stop for gas in Dallas because that's your halfway point, right? So I remember briefing guys who came from Alameda and were going to Alameda. So
Yeah.
I remember it by
Yeah, I was,
name at least. If nothing else, I remember the name of that base.
Yeah, I was stationed on a carrier that was our home port, so I was there, but I wasn't there a lot, you know?
Well, you were on the USS Never Home
Yeah, pretty much.
or the USS Always Out or the
Yeah. Yes. We sailed a lot. I was,
Yeah.
I sailed 4 continents before I turned 21.
Well, that's not nothing. Yeah, I often thought after it was all over and done, I thought that I missed out an awful lot because I didn't serve on an actual ship. And I
Yeah.
did. I think I did miss out on a great deal because I didn't serve on a ship. But when I signed up for the military, I grabbed the hold of the mindset that this was something I have to do because of what it's going to do for me. I went into it for very personal reasons. I was looking for self-discipline, and I think I got that. What I wasn't doing was saying I'm gung ho, so patriotic that you can kill me before you just disfigure my flag. I wasn't like that at all. I was like, okay, here's military is an opportunity for me to learn. And when I went in, when I raised my right hand and said I promised to do all the stuff, I put it in my mind that I was basically going to be incarcerated for 4 years. My job was I was their slave. I slept where they told me to sleep, and I knew that going into it. And I had my head wrapped around this is gonna suck so bad. that by the time of what got all done, when I look back on it, I thought that was the easiest thing I could have. That
Yeah.
was amazingly easy.
Yeah. Something sucked, but
Yeah, some parts of it were nasty, but I had wrapped my head around the notion that it was going to be so nasty for so long that it ended up being pretty easy.
yeah.
Pretty easy. Certainly, I think it's a lot easier for a 25-year-old than it is for an 18-year-old. You know, the first thing that the 18-year-old has to figure out, and I don't know, were you 18 when you went in?
Yeah. I spent my 19th birthday in boot camp.
Yeah, so you were still pretty much on the young side. Well, the first thing that the young people have to figure out how to do is get over the homesickness. Because most of them went from the
Yeah.
house they grew up in to
Yeah.
boot camp.
Yeah.
And
100%.
that's a big, huge piece of it. Well, by the time you're 25, that's gone. So no harm, no foul, no worries. You didn't even have to worry about it.
Yeah. I was a big mama's boy. So that the first few weeks were pretty tough on me, but once you get past the hump, it was all right.
Yeah, I just wanted to include this part of our conversation in case you got a bunch of 17-year-olds who are thinking about going in and they're listening to your podcast.
Yeah, I think every 17-year-old should go in. I got a lot out of it. A lot of people talk negative about the military. I absolutely love my time in the military, and I would definitely talk anybody into going in.
I think the military should be mandatory.
Yeah, I wouldn't
You know what
hate
else
that.
I think should be mandatory? I think all high school seniors across the country need to go to the Tomb of the Unknown Soldier on a field trip before they get their diploma. Those couple of things. You know, I just made the comment that I wasn't a gung-ho patriot when I went in the Navy, but I am
Yeah,
today.
yeah,
You know, I get it today.
yeah. I'm very patriotic today, also.
Yeah, look, I got a flag hanging right here in my house.
Yes.
You know, and I got another one on my vest right here.
Yeah,
And I
yeah.
wear red.
I think your vest needs to be thrown in the laundry.
My vest needs to be thrown in a museum or something. My vest is pretty toasted.
It's a
But,
OG
you know,
vest.
I don't mind bragging about bits and pieces of it. Like this one here, I don't know if you can read it. This one says, "I smoke cigars to piss you off."
Hell yeah.
You know, there's a lot of humor on the patches. This one is the one I'm most proud of. I don't know if you probably can't even read that. It says 40/8. I got to do a speech on Veterans Day. They called me into the school over here to give a speech to the kids. And the elementary school kid came up to me and says, "How come there's an improper fraction on your vest?" That's what he saw 40/8, and that's what it was to him. And I said, "Oh, well, this is it goes back to World War One. Are you familiar with the 40/8?
Yes.
Do you get to wear their patch?"
I've never joined.
Oh, well, I'll give you a quick recap for the listeners that don't know, because there's not very many. At last count, there was less than 15,000 40/8ers in the country. Fewer than 15,000. I think it was 14,600 ish, give or take. That was as of last month. 3 requirements to be a 40/8er. Number 1, you have to be an honorably discharged veteran. Number 2, you have to be actively working for veterans or their families. And number 3, this is my favorite one, they have to catch you. They have to find you and see that that's what you're doing and then invite you in. You can't go knock on the door and say, "I want to join."
Yeah.
So
Get
that's
invited.
that's why that's my favorite one. Not only is that why it's my favorite one, they caught me. You know, they caught me doing good stuff for veterans' families, and that's how I get to wear that patch. But not only that, so I've had the patch now for 4 years. We just in the fall, we got it for the 5th year. So that was my personal 4-year anniversary. Just a couple months ago. And they still, when I call them up, I say, "All right, where do I send my annual dues?" They still say to me, "You're covered."
Nice.
So I must be doing something right.
Right
You
on.
know, and you know, we've been talking for a little while, and we're talking about the military and military service and stuff like that. But we should probably, when I get to say stuff like this, I should probably back it up. I should probably say, "Well, this is one of the things that happened on the road." Oh, yeah, I've done over 155,000 miles. You know, anybody can ride a motorcycle 155,000 miles. You could do it, couldn't you? Just playing with you a little bit because
You don't want to see me on a motorcycle.
I thought you would say something like that. We got really, really lucky 2 summers ago. Well, let me backtrack even farther than that. You go back to about 2022, 23. 2023, I was doing ride number, I don't know, 50-ish. I don't know. I don't remember the number of the ride, but I ended up going through Houston, Texas. I was riding from Florida across to Texas, and I get to the Houston area, and I'm going to go see a group of Gold Star family members. And when I got there to the group, there were 5 Gold Star moms and 1 Gold Star dad. And the 1 Gold Star dad was actually married to one of the moms. So we had 5 families represented there. And we're doing our thing, our bit for God and country. And the dad was, his son had been dead for 2 years when I got there. The dad was still, after 2 years, he was unable to hold any kind of decorum. He could not be stoic. The tears were just constant. So we're talking with him for about, part of what I do when I'm doing this kind of thing is like, I want to put a great deal of emphasis on remembering the fallen hero. We want to remember that fallen hero. That's what the families want too. They want us to remember the fallen hero. And we're like an hour into this visit, and I'm trying to get them to be positive and talk about the memories that they have of their fallen hero. And I turn to this man who hasn't stopped shedding tears for the whole time that I'm there. And we're there for about an hour. And I said to him, tell me one of your favorite memories from when your son was in 7th grade. And he lost it. He crumbled, and he turned and he walked away, and you could see him, his shoulders were shuddering because he was crying so hard. And I walked over to him and I whispered to him, I often don't have any idea where I find the words, but I whispered to him, I said, I know that this hurts. I know that. And I want you to know that I am fully aware that no one can take this away from you. No one can take your pain away from you. It's yours forever, and no one will ever, ever be able to take it away from you. And I just stood silently after that. We just stood silently next to him for, it seemed like an eternity. It was probably 5 or 6 minutes. I just stood right next to him silently. Everybody else was 15 feet away. And then we kind of turned and tried our best to get back into the groove of things. I know if you look it up on our website and you go through all of the videos, you'll find the Instagram that I posted at the end of that. We ended up being there. I ended up spending about 3 hours with those families, and it was dark. The sun had set. It was dark out, and I turned on my phone and I said, I just wanted to record this little update to let you guys all know where I'm at, what I'm doing. And that's the family over there. And this was a really, really hard, this is a very difficult emotionally thing for me to go through. Well, that was in the spring of 2023. In the spring of 2024, I was doing a similar route. I was going from Florida through Texas up to Minnesota. And I'm doing a similar route. And I said, oh, that family lives over here. And I called them up. And they said, you guys want to have a cup of coffee with me? And they said, sure. So we met for a cup of coffee, and it was a full year later. And this time, you could see that Dad was still sad, but he wasn't overwhelmed anymore. But you could see he was still visibly sad, and there was a couple of tears that would come down. But I did say something, and I couldn't tell you what it was, but I did say something that made him crack a smile. And then we finished, I spent an hour and a half with him, and then down the road I went. And then now fast forward, this is the spring of 2024. Come May, we're planning our laugh ride. We call it a laugh ride. It stands for long ass fundraiser. We call it that because the very first one we did, we rode 1,014 miles in 24 hours. So that's a long ass fundraiser. And I think we raised about $3,000 for that. So I'm putting together our long ass fundraiser, and I'm talking to a Gold Star mom who lives in southwestern Minnesota. It's about 100 miles away from the Twin Cities. And we're planning to do this motorcycle ride. We're going to ride from Minnesota down to Mountain Lake where she lives. And we're going to hang out with her. And she's telling me the story, and she's telling me, and we're on the phone for hours. And she says, yeah, funny thing happened when my son was killed. I said, yeah. She said, when my son was killed, 2 weeks later, the guy who escorted my son's body back home called me on the phone. And he said, there was another young man killed from the same unit, the same Marines, and their family is really struggling. Would you consider calling them? And she said, sure. So she calls up the mom of this other Marine, and they become best friends over the phone. They're talking to each other 2-3 times a week for years. Then
Right.
they know each other. And it turns out that a little bit more farther into the conversation, come to find out that it was the same woman in the Houston area that I visited twice. And I said, you've never met her? No, never met her. I don't get a chance to go to Texas. She doesn't get a chance to go to Minnesota. So no, we've never met, but we've been friends forever. And I said, I think this is what we're going to do. We're going to take a little bit of money out of our bank account. We're going to buy some plane tickets. And sure enough, that's exactly what we did. We flew the Houston couple up here to Minnesota, and they drove our support vehicle, and they followed I think we had 62 motorcycles that day that rode for 100 miles. And then we had lunch together, a little bit of pomp and circumstance, some ceremony and some speeches and some talk about why we were there. And then we rode back again. And it was an above average set of circumstances because I got to record it on my phone when these two met for the first time. So sometimes we get to do some stuff that's pretty cool. Sometimes we get a little bit lucky. But, we've had 53 Gold Star families now in 7 years. That's a lot.
How do you find the Gold Star families?
No, I don't find them. They find me. I've got a waiting list because there's so many of them that have contacted me, reached out to me, and asked me for a variety of different things. Yeah, so there's a waiting list now of families waiting for us to come out and see them. But there's so many stories. I could tell you the story that I met the little boy in Jacksonville, Florida. Met this 6-year-old boy. His name was Tony. I remember his name was Tony because that's my name is Tony. And I met him with his whole family. His mom was there. His dad was killed in the Navy. And he looked at my Token Squid name tag here. And he said, well, you're Tony and I'm Tony and I want to be a Token Squid too. So we had a custom patch made up for him. It's a Token Squid with the Roman numeral 2.
Yeah.
So there's only 2 Token Squids. There's mine and there's this Token Squid 2 I guess he'd be 8 years old now. But if you're ever rolling around in Florida, you see an 8-year-old kid with a vest on that says Token Squid 2. Now you know where that one came from. I mean, that was those are cool moments when we get to do that. He was pretty young when his father passed away. He never really knew who his dad was.
Right.
I think he was 1 or 2 years old when his father passed away. So we just get all kinds of stories like that. We had a story in Erie, Pennsylvania. So I was riding through Pennsylvania. Pennsylvania does not have a lid law. You have one in your state.
Yes.
By the way, you can go ahead and get that changed anytime you want. That's not going to hurt my feelings. But there's no lid law in Pennsylvania. So I was riding through Western Pennsylvania on my way to Lockport, which is just outside Buffalo, New York. Anyway, this is where I'm on my way to, and I stop in Erie, Pennsylvania, right on the state line. There's a McDonald's parking lot there, and I got to strap on the helmet. So I strap on the helmet, start the bike up, rolls 10 feet, and it dies. Now I'm sitting on a dead motorcycle. I can't figure out how to start it. It just won't start. I'm looking at the codes, and I'm trying to figure out what it might be. And this guy comes up from behind me, and he says, mine does that sometimes too. Let's push it over in the shade, see if we can get it fixed. While we're pushing it over in the shade, he says, well, what's this Gold Star Ride Foundation all about? Because there's stickers. I think there was 13 stickers on the bike that said Gold Star Ride Foundation. And they were on the helmet too. Anyway, so I tell him what the Gold Star Ride Foundation, and he says, oh, that's pretty awesome. Well, what's a Gold Star family? So I said, well, Gold Star, immediate family member, somebody killed in the military. And he stopped helping me push at that moment. And he stood upright and he looked me dead in the face and he said, my daughter was killed in Korea 3 years ago.
And he didn't know what a Gold Star was?
And he didn't know what a Gold Star family was. Nobody bothered to tell him.
Huh.
And this is just one of there's some of that's, I managed to get some of that recorded on, and that's up on our website too. But the people ask me all the time, why do you do what you do? That's there's a handful of questions I get all the time. Where's my favorite place to ride? That's like number one. Number two is, why do you do it? And part of the reason why I do it is what I was talking about before, where, you got two guys that are elbow to elbow. If they're going into harm's way, one will ask the other to do something for them if something happens to them. So I feel like it's my job to do that for any and all of them. If they gave their life for our country, the least I can do is make sure that their families know that they didn't do it in vain.
Right.
Never mind how Biden got us out of Afghanistan. Never mind all of that crap. Anyway, I was doing a long ride. I had been to like 36 or 37 states. This is several years ago. And I checked into a hotel at the end of the day, and somebody sent me an email message saying, you got to visit my friend. My best friend is a Gold Star mom. You got to see my best friend. And I wrote her back, and, she said where she was and all this stuff. And I wrote her back and I said, I'll be there in 2 days and we'll have lunch together. So pick a spot, find lunch, and I'll meet you there for lunch in 2 days. And 2 days rolls around, and we ended up with a group of, 15 people, which is always fun. It's always enhanced when we get more people involved. If I go by myself, that's fine. We'll make some things happen. But like when I was in Maryland and we showed up with 116 motorcycles that day, who that guy who lost his brother, we had 116 I can call him up and ask him for anything and he'll do it for me. He'll drop whatever he's doing. And, he's one of them good.
How do you find riders when you're out of state?
We go through the veterans fraternities. And we just say, hey, we're going to be there on such and such day. Put the word out. Anybody wants to ride with us can come and ride with us. Anyway, I met this woman for lunch, and we had about 15 people there. It was pretty cool. And I didn't know how she became a Gold Star mom. I only knew that the friend said she was a Gold Star mom. So that's what I'm going by. And we were having lunch, and just out of nowhere at lunchtime, she just says, I just don't understand why my son would take his own life. And I said, he didn't take his own life. That was a sniper's bullet from 7,000 miles away. And she just burst into tears. And I was crying, and all the 15 or 16 people that were standing around us were crying. I think the waiter was crying. Everybody was crying. And then after about 30 seconds or so of everybody wiping their tears, somebody said, those French fries look pretty good. And then went back on to just talking about stupid stuff.
Yeah.
Anyhow, and then when it was all done, we hugged our goodbyes, and I got on the motorcycle, and down the road I went. And I kept on riding, and I kept on visiting Gold Star families, and I kept on, and I kept on, and I kept on. And it took a week. But 7 days later, I check into one of these flea-bitten hotels, and it took a bunch of work to get so I could read my email. And I turn on the laptop computer, and I get the email open up, and I get a email not from the Gold Star mom that we're talking about here, but the best friend. So the best friend sent me another email, and she said, very simply, your visit here was the greatest thing that could have ever happened, because later that day, she went home and tore up her own suicide note.
Wow.
So when people ask me, you say, why do you do what you do? Because I got one person to tear up a suicide note.
Yeah. That's pretty heavy.
Yeah. And, that's the one I've got evidence of, right? So, but
yeah, how many more that you don't know?
Yeah, how many more are there that I don't have any evidence of? And
Right.
and how many are there that,
what's your website?
goldstarride.org. I should have put that as my middle name instead of Token Squid. And while you're at the website, you can get a copy of this book, which tells all those, well, not all those stories, but I think the guy in Erie, Pennsylvania is in here, and the woman who tore up her suicide note is in here. And there's probably 30 or 40 more.
Yeah.
I wrote that book, and you can grab it for $20 at the website.
How did you, what made you decide to write a book?
When I came home in 2018, I did a hellacious ride, like 18,000 miles, 44 states. I saw 64 Gold Star families. I was away from home for 54 days consecutive. And I came home, and I had something like 350 hours of GoPro camera footage. You know, the GoPro people back in 2018, they were kind enough to be one of our sponsors. They gave me a couple of cameras for the motorcycle.
Yeah. What did you do? Just call them up and tell them what you're going to do?
Yeah, basically. I mean, it took 6 months of back and forth with email and this, that, and the other thing before they went for it. But yeah, they sent me 3 cameras. So I would, whenever I was meeting the Gold Star family, if I'd meet them at a restaurant or at a picnic table in a park or anywhere, I would find a spot to set the camera and I'd hit record and we would just continue. We would just pretend it wasn't there. And there's a lot of spots where I'm driving down the road and I'm going, wow, this is just too cool. How can I even explain to somebody what this looks like? Like when I had to, I refer to it as dancing whenever I have an animal cross the road in front of me on the motorcycle. So I'm dancing with the deer or I'm dancing with the skunk or I'm dancing with the possum or the snakes. Or in one case down in Arizona, I was dancing with the wild horses. Or as I was in the upper peninsula of Michigan, where I was dancing with the elk and the bear. Or I was in northern Wisconsin when I danced with the mountain lion. You know, I did a lot of dancing with different stuff. So I think that there's a short video clip of dancing with the horses. Dancing with the horses in Arizona. That's kind of freaky because these are wild horses just kind of meandering around trying to mind their own little business. But if they want to cross the road, they're not waiting for the light to say walk.
Yeah.
Walk. You know, they just crossing the road. And you hit a 1,600-pound animal on a motorcycle, it's going to leave a dent. Incidentally, I have a dent from hitting a deer. So I've hit a 250 or 200-pound animal on the motorcycle, and it totaled a motorcycle. I did that back in September of 22. I hit a deer. I was going 70 miles an hour.
How bad did it mess you up?
Didn't mess me up at all. And I tell you, I got a friend in Indiana who goes by the road name Head Dog. You know, all us bikers, we have road names. So I called up Head Dog and I told him about that deer. And he says, "You hit a deer?" I said, "Yeah." He says, "At 70?" I said, "Yeah." "And lived?"
Yeah,
I said,
for
"Yeah."
real.
There's a little bit of a pause and he comes back and he says, "How many Gold Star families have you met with now?" I said, "About 450. That's what it was at the time. I said, "Yeah, about 450. He says, "I guess you got about 450 guardian angels, don't you?" I said, "Yes, I do.
Right.
Yes,
Yeah.
I do." And I can tell you, the hitting the deer at 70 miles an hour, that's one. But I should have been killed in Montana. I should have been killed in Pennsylvania. I should have been killed in Alabama. I should have been killed in New Mexico. I should have been killed in, you know, and these are just the ones that I can think of off the top of my head. I should have been killed in New York. And all of these places where I say I should have been killed are places where angels kept me alive. Angels kept me safe because I just got nothing else, no other way to explain it except that I must be doing what I'm supposed to be doing because they're doing their best to keep me alive when I should be getting killed. The New Mexico one is, in particular, it'll raise some goosebumps. You want to hear that story?
Yeah. Let's hear it.
I'm crossing New Mexico. I'm on a big run. I went from Jacksonville Beach, Florida to San Diego, and I'm on my way back. And I'm crossing New Mexico, and it's a perfect day. I mean, it's beautiful. I don't know if you've ever ridden in New Mexico, but I'm not on the freeway on this ride. I'm on US Highway 60. There's one lane going each way, and there's nobody anywhere around. There are no clouds in the sky. It's 85 degrees out. It is perfect for riding a motorcycle. And I've got the cruise set at 85. I've got my feet up. I've got the tunes just blaring. And all of a sudden, and I passed the town 25 miles previous. So start thinking about this when you think, how close is the next town to you, right? So 25 miles behind me is a town. The next town is not for another 50 miles in front of me. 75 miles in between towns. So 25 miles behind me. And all of a sudden, out of nowhere, I mean, I'm just enjoying this. I'm in the Rocky Mountains. It's beautiful. It's perfect. It's wonderful. And there's a computer on the motorcycle. And the computer is always sensing for something to go wrong. And if the computer says something's going to go wrong with the engine, it'll make the engine slow way down so you can only go 15 miles an hour. They call that limp mode. So the concept is you can limp it at 15 miles an hour to get home to fix whatever goes wrong with it. So I am in these conditions. Boom, I'm in limp mode. Okay, pull up the code on the odometer. Okay, there's a code, whatever it was. And I pull up my phone, no signal here. And I looked around, and for 360 degrees all around me, the only thing that was man-made was the pavement I was standing on. There were no telephone poles. There were no barns. There was no nothing. I was in nature. There was no signal. So I did what I had to do. I knew the town 25 miles behind me was going to be no good because there was 3 houses and a gas pump, and that's it. So they're not going to help me there. So I'm going 50 miles forward to the next town, which incidentally is the same place where Billy the Kid is buried. Fort Sumter, New Mexico. It took me 4 hours to get there. 4 hours to get 50 miles down the road. At that point, it was 50 miles. It took me 4 hours, 15 miles an hour, and no cars. No, there was no other traffic anywhere. Every now and then I'd pass a farmhouse, but there were like for 50 miles, just like there's really nothing out here. Anyway, I get to the town, and I pull up to the service station or gas station there, a convenience store, and I get out my phone, and oh look, there's a tow truck in town. There's no mechanics repair shops. There's no Harley Davidson dealerships. There's no service that I can get for my motorcycle, but there's a tow truck. And I call him up, and his name is Alex. I love Alex. Alex is a great tow truck driver. If you're ever in Fort Sumner, New Mexico, call Alex. He will take care of you. He's a great, great human being. I call him up, and he says, yeah, I'll tow you anywhere you want to go, but you're not going to get that motorcycle fixed anywhere near here. I said, what are my choices? He says, 100 miles south to Roswell, or 175 miles east to Lubbock, Texas. I love telling this story to people who say that we're overcrowded and we have too many people who live here. Anyway, all right, we're going to Lubbock, Texas, because my next Gold Star family is in Lubbock, Texas. That's what I was on my way to see them anyway. I was supposed to see him at 4:00 today, but we're going to have to do it tomorrow. Anyhow, he comes to load up the bike. And just before we start pushing the bike onto the tow truck, I said, funny thing happened just outside of town, or just on the edge of town, right at the city limits, 2 blocks. Fort Sumter is only 3 blocks long, 4 blocks long, maybe. Anyway, right there at the edge of town, I felt the back wheel jump. A front wheel didn't jump. I'm only going 15 miles an hour. I did not see a rock or pothole, but the back wheel jumped. I felt the back wheel jump. And he says, oh, and he lays down on the ground right next to the motorcycle and reaches up behind the saddlebags. And he comes over to me, grabs my hand, puts these little tiny black pebbles or dots in my hand. And I said, what the hell is that? He said, that's what's left of your wheel bearings.
Oh my God.
Okay, now let's do a little backtracking here. Remember, the computer is making me go 15 miles an hour. The computer does not monitor the wheel bearings. So if I don't slow down, I'm going 85 and I'm leaning back and I'm getting into it and I've got it on cruise control. And when those bearings decided to make their complete failure, it would have been a catastrophic failure. The back wheel would have come off at 80 miles an hour. And when they found me on that highway, which would have been hours, minimal hours, when they found me, they would have scraped me up with a spatula because there's no helmet law in New Mexico either. So guess what? I'm not wearing a helmet in New Mexico. So yeah, they would have scraped me up off the road. So anyway, I'm going to just tell you the shortest version of this. We get to Lubbock, Texas, 4 hours later. We park the motorcycle in front of the Harley Davidson dealership. And the next day, I went and spent 3.5 hours with the Gold Star family. They drove. We went to see, there's a beautiful, beautiful Veterans Memorial in Lubbock, Texas. If you're ever anywhere near there, just get over there and see it. It's remarkable. Anyway, she brings me back to the Harley Davidson dealership. And now it's, 1 o'clock in the afternoon or something. And I see the motorcycles out in the parking lot. And I walk up to the service desk and I say, hey, the motorcycle's still outside. He says, yeah, it's done. I'm talking to the service manager, right? He says, yeah, it's done. And I said, awesome. What'd you do? He said, we put in new rear wheel bearings. Man, we've never seen them. Yeah, you got new ones now, so you're good. And I said, and the front ones? He said, yep, as long as we put new front wheel bearings in too, because they were shot as well. And he says, oh, and by the way, we told your story to the general manager, and you're picking up half the tab. So half the tab is being donated to you. I said, wow, it doesn't get much better than this. What about the
Right.
code? What about the code? And he says, what code? I said, what about the code that made it go 15 miles an hour for 5 hours? That code. What about that code? He said, there wasn't one. I said, did you look at the computer's history? Because the computer remembers every code it's ever thrown since it was brand new. He says, yes, we looked at the computer's history and no code.
What?
And no code. I told you this story was going to give you goosebumps.
Yeah.
There was no code. And I rode that motorcycle from Lubbock, Texas, across Oklahoma, across here, across there, across there. I've ridden that motorcycle 50, 60,000 miles since then. That code has never come back. I've ridden that motorcycle for 3 new back tires since then. That code has never come back.
Bike saved your life.
The bike saved my life. Listen, 553 Gold Star families under my belt. I got 553 guardian angels taking care of me.
Yeah, that's what it seems like.
And, you know, you got to kind of call it what it is.
Yeah, for sure.
You know, that was something that was not of this world.
Yeah, divine intervention for sure.
Definitely.
Yeah,
definitely.
I totally.
And what a
believe-
wonderful story to tell at Christmas time.
Yeah.
When is this podcast going to air?
It's going to air in January. So we're just going to, hey, by the way, he's telling the story at Christmas time, but you're going to hear it. You're going to hear it after Christmas.
Yeah. And speaking of telling stories, you get veterans, our listeners, right?
Yes, sir.
So you'll love this. See this patch right here. Veterans love, this is a great stocking stuffer for all your veteran friends. It says, my DD214 can kick your MBA's ass.
Yes, for sure.
Anyway, you get it for $10 at the website, which is goldstarride.org.
Yes, I'll have that in the description also.
And this too?
Yeah, make sure you get this man's book.
Yeah. And we're working on a sequel. I had lunch with a corporate sponsor today, and he was asking me to tell him all these stories. And I was telling him the story about how I was broke down at Vail, Colorado. I was broke down on the freeway for 7 days, like 20 feet from the sign that said Vail elevation 10,700, whatever it is. And I was telling him that story, and I told him the story about Butte, Montana. And so there's all of these stories that are going to come out in the sequel. There's a lot of stories in this book about the Gold Star families that we've taken care of. There's you know what's not in here? In last year, 2024, on January 6th, 2024, I got to meet the oldest Gold Star mother in history on her 105th birthday. How cool is that?
Yeah.
She lost her son in 1968.
Wow.
Anyway, in Vietnam. Anyway, 6 months later, I was asked to give the dedication speech to a Woody Williams Gold Star Memorial. And if you're not familiar with these things, look up Woody Williams, find the one nearest you and go check it out. They're all different. And at last count was Columbus Day. They unveiled the 150th Woody Williams in Aberdeen, South Dakota. So I was there for that unveiling. But I got to, in June 2024, I got to give the keynote address, which you can also, if you want to hear me speak, like you're not hearing me speak now. So if you want to hear me speak, you can hear me speak. It's on a YouTube video someplace. Anyway, she was there. Her name is Stella. And I told the story about Stella and how we met, and Stella and I became fast friends. We became really, really good friends. And she asked me in June when I gave the speech for the Gold Star Monument, she said, well, I'm 105 years old. And I said, and 6 months. And she chuckled a little bit and she said, I don't have very much longer. And I said, yeah, but our thing is coming up in like 3 weeks and you're going to be there for our laugh ride, our long ass fundraiser, right? You're going to come out for that. And she said, well, we'll see. But I want you to speak at my funeral. I said, well, let me think of 9 different reasons how I can possibly say no.
Right.
So 2024, there was a lot of things that happened in 2024 that I'm looking forward to writing about in the sequel. And we're hoping to have the sequel out so that it can be the official release date for the sequel. We're hoping is Memorial Day 2026.
Nice.
So if any of you guys are owners of huge businesses, like if Elon Musk is watching, we're looking for some corporate sponsors for a golf outing that we're going to do in the summer of 2026. We're going to do a little celebrity thing. We've got 6 celebrities signed up already, and we're hoping to have 18 altogether. That's why I don't know if you recorded that part where I said, "Do you know Nate Bargatze?"
I don't remember.
I don't remember if you were recording that
He
or not.
lives here in Nashville somewhere. That's all I know.
Yeah, he lives around there somewhere. If you meet him, see him in a restaurant or something, tell him we want him to come and be one of the celebrities at our golf outing.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. So, we just keep on keeping on. We never know who we're going to meet. We never know what their story is going to be, but we know it's going to be a good one.
Yeah.
We know it's going to be a good story. So, we're just doing our best. We're just doing our best to do our best.
Yeah, it's awesome, man. I love it. And hey, before I let you go, because we're already a little bit over an hour, I have a segment that I do. I'm going to spin a wheel. It's going to land on a number.
I love playing games.
That number has corresponding question next to it. Look at that. Pretty little wheel.
I love it. I love it.
You ready? I'm going to spin it.
All right. One of those numbers just changed to 11.
9, 10.
According to the computer, it's a 10.
10. 10's your lucky number. So now I go back to not to bring up my questions. Number 10. Let me get rid of this wheel first. So
Yeah. What could question 10 possibly be?
are you ready?
As I'll ever be.
Oh, first of all, let me what does serving your country mean to you, and how has it shaped your sense of purpose and identity?
Well, I'll give you credit for asking a question to which I never think about the answer.
Exactly.
How it shaped me. Well, first of all, how it shaped me, if I can be so bold as to use a high school reference. I think most of our education system in the United States now is not so much about educating as it is about indoctrinating. But the basic thing is that when you go through something for 4 years and you have this routine that you have to somehow work through, at the end of 4 years of working through it, it's going to change who you are as a person, and you're going to have habits that sort of reflect how you made it work when you went through that high school thing. 4 years of the military is not unlike that. 4 years of the military will teach you, number one, it'll teach you why the United States is worth fighting for. Number one, why is it worth fighting for? That's what our job is as military personnel, military men and women. Our job is to fight for our country. And why is our country worth fighting for? Well, all of that stuff is what you learn when you are serving your country. This is why I think it's so imperative that we should go back to a system where everybody serves for at least 2 years. Everybody does boot camp, and then, I think everybody should do 2 years. And how has it shaped me since? I think I started talking a little bit about this at the beginning of our conversation when I was talking about how I got out in 91, but I didn't bother to tell anybody I was ever in until 2011. That's 20 years, right?
30.
I don't know. I went to public school. I'm not sure about the math, but that's pretty close to 20 years, right? Or is it 30? 20?
No, it's 20 years.
20 years.
91, one.
But even though I didn't promote the notion to other people that I served in the military for 20 years, it had a direct impact on all the decisions that I made, no matter what they were, whatever my job was, whether I was a big truck driver or a fast food manager. By the way, I did both of those jobs. I also sold Kirby vacuum cleaners for a while. That was a funny story. We'll save it for the next one.
Yeah.
But everything that I did in between, and I was playing music on stages, I did a lot of that. But everything that I did, the decisions I made were decisions that I made based on the training that I brought back from the military. And it's also, I've said this before, that it's roughly 5, maybe 6% of the general population are just bad people. They're people whose minds don't work quite right, and they become criminals. They just decide that being a criminal is just as good as not being a criminal, and the same thing is true. It's true across the board. Doesn't matter what the profession is. 5% of cops are probably bad people. 5% of postal workers are bad people. 5% of the military are. I mean, that's why we have Leavenworth.
Right.
But I also think there's an awful lot of people in the military that are doing time that shouldn't be doing time. A horrific story of a guy I served with who served in Vietnam, medals on both sides of his chest, just filled. And he got other than honorable for popping a positive back in the day when marijuana was illegal.
Yeah.
And it, so it just destroyed his life. And I've, I wish I could reach out to that guy today and offer him something, because
Right.
what I saw that the military did to him was they basically destroyed him.
Right. Yep. Happens.
So it goes both ways. But the bottom line is that there's about 5 or 6% of the people, no matter what the profession, 5 or 6% of the people, and maybe it's even as high as 10%, are just going to be assholes. They're just going to be. But the other stuff, I know people who never served in our country's military, and they're not assholes. They're really good people. That's one of the things that I've learned riding motorcycle around the country. This country is filled with incredible people. But every now and then you run into a bad one. Now, would these civilians still be incredible people if they had served? No, they'd still be incredible people. They'd just be that much more incredible. They would just have that much more training under their belt, and they would have that much more. I mean, we say it to be funny. We say my DD 214 can kick your MBA's ass. We say that to be funny, but there's something to it.
Right.
There's a little something to it. I don't think you find people who earned a DD 214 who are talking about, let's put in this policy that will destroy America. They're not saying, let's capitulate to these guys over here that are trying to beat us up. You're not going to find veterans who are holding on to that kind of an attitude.
Right.
You find really good people, and I met this guy in New York, really great human being, lost his son in Afghanistan early on, and he's got a radio program where he gets on the radio every single day, and he talks about how wrong the military is and how wrong the military leadership is. And his primary reason for that is because he lost his own son. But so that kind of a catastrophic loss will have an effect on anybody and everybody.
Yeah, it'll make you jaded for sure.
Yeah, it'll make you jaded. But I think far and away, way to look at our country is, well, first of all, we're born here. Okay. So we're kind of stuck with that no matter what. Can't change that. We're born here, but we should be proud to be born here. And we should be willing to die to keep this country safe for everybody else who's born here. And that's something that is available. That's an attitude that's available in the military more than any other sector. Absolutely. You can't find it in any other sector.
Yep, I agree.
So for that reason, I'm going to keep on doing what I do.
Well, I love it. And I appreciate you coming on. I appreciate your service. Thank you so much for your service, not only to our country, but after your service, you kept a life of, positivity and helping your fellow man out. I love it, man.
Well, I was a civilian for almost 30 years before I started it. That's what I'm doing now. I think.
When's the next time you're going to be in Nashville?
Yeah, I think I've been to Nashville many times. I got pictures of Gold Star families in Nashville.
When's the next time you coming by this way?
Probably I don't know, probably in the middle of the summer. I think this spring, because my motorcycle is currently sitting in Florida. I know I was in the Nashville area in October this last year, but and it'll probably going to be late summer next year before I get around that way again. This spring, the ride from Florida to Minnesota is going to go by way of New England. So I'll go up to Jersey and Rhode Island and Delaware and Maine and Vermont and New Hampshire, because that's where the list of Gold Stars has been waiting the longest. So I'm probably going to swing up through there. And then that'll That way I get to come home through the UP, which is a great ride. And I also get to ride on my favorite highway of the country. I never did answer the question, where's my favorite place to ride? US Highway 6 across Pennsylvania is my favorite place to ride. All the way across the state of Pennsylvania, the longest stretch of straight, flat road is a half a mile. Otherwise, it's constant curves and hills and valleys and beautiful Appalachian Mountains. It's just Alleghenies in Pennsylvania, if I'm not mistaken. Just beautiful there. Just beautiful there.
Awesome. Well, if we ever cross paths, I'll buy you a cup of coffee.
Well, I'll look forward to that.
Yes.
I'll look forward to that. My cup of coffee is usually 6 shots of espresso and a ham and cheese croissant.
Oh, right on. I think we can handle that. Speaking of food, I'm going to go eat dinner.
Well, there you go. There you go.
All
I
right.
think I will too. Now that it's January.
Yes, very close to January. But when this goes, yes, it'll be January.
Well, I appreciate you having me on board. I appreciate you putting up with me because, like you said before, we tried it 2 or 3 months ago and we
Yeah.
couldn't make it work. So I'm really glad that we were able to make it work and we got it out there.
I'm looking forward to a recap here after you got some more stories, man. Come back and talk to us again.
The stories are endless.
Yes, I hear that.
Always got more stories. And
Right.
we're making more every day. We're trying to.
Yes. Do me a favor, stick around after I hit the stop button because I want to make sure you get all uploaded. I would hate for all this to be for naught.
All right. I'll just say goldstarride.org.
Yes.
Thank you very much, everybody.
Till next time. Thank you.